October webinar, Carpet Cost Saving Strategies Every Facility Manager Should Know, How State Farm Avoids Costs, Retains Appearance Levels, and Creates Healthy Workplace. Everyone has been muted for audio quality. If you do have any questions, please type them into the chat box, and we will cover them during the Q&A portion of the webinar. Also, within 24 to 48 hours after the webinar, I will be sending out an email with the link to the recording as well as the PDF copy of the PowerPoint. So if you are interested in that, that will be delivered to you. Today's presenters will be Wayne Witzel, Lead AP, EP GBO, Steve Spencer, FMA Facility Specialist, and Rachel LeBay with Carpet Fiber Company. Okay, Wayne, I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Joshua. And also, if anyone has any trouble hearing me, just type something into the chat box and let me know. Well, once again, thank you to the Corporate Facilities Council for asking us to come over and speak. I will give you my initial IFMA pitch here at the front end of this and just say that I'm very proud to be a member of IFMA since 2000, and IFMA's given a lot to me personally and professionally, and I'm always very thankful for the relationships and the information that I get at IFMA, and just very proud to be part of this organization. And if ever anyone has any questions after the webinar, you're always welcome to give me a call. I'd like to give back as much as I've taken from this organization, so feel free to reach out to me or any of the other presenters if you have any questions. So we're going to talk about carpet cost-saving strategies, and that might sound a little dry. And typically, I'm not known for dry presentations, but this is something that there's a lot of money on the table, and until this concept is opened up and unpacked and looked at, sometimes people don't realize exactly how much potential savings they're sitting on by making good strategic choices with regard to carpet. So what we've done is we've assembled some experts here, a panel, to really go over portions of the life cycle of carpet to explain how these strategic choices along the way can result in very, very big savings. So, with that, let's start here. Get my mouse moving here. So I wanted to start out by using an analogy here. If I were to tell you that I needed a car for my off-road adventures, and when I say off-road adventures, I mean I need to take this vehicle and I need to go up the side of mountains, I need to go through mud, I need to be able to, go way, way into the outback, way into the woods, and I've been searching for just the right vehicle to be able to do this. And I want to go with my buddies who are out there and just experiencing all this great stuff, but they're really experiencing some pretty, phenomenal road conditions and challenging road conditions, and I want to get out there. So after much thought and contemplation and talking to a lot of different salespeople, I think I've made the best informed decision. And I said to them, look, this needs to last me 7 years, and that's the most important thing for me because I've got a budget, and I've got to amortize this thing and capitalize the cost. So whatever I choose has to last. So I talked to a bunch of people, and after much consideration, I've decided to go with a 1977 Ford Pinto. I think that's the best choice for me to handle all these off-road adventures. And I think I've made a very good informed decision based on what the salespeople have told me and based upon my budget and some other things. So that's my choice. Now, to further my wonderful choices here that I've made, I know I'm going to have to maintain this car because it's going to go through a lot of abuse on those off-road tracks there. And I've looked around and I decided that the best person to maintain my 1977 Ford off-road Pinto is my neighbor's 2-year-old. And I think that he's going to do a great job for me, and I'm under no worry about how my vehicle is going to perform because I know he's got it. Now, obviously, I've made a couple of really bad decisions. I've put a vehicle in service of doing something the vehicle is not necessarily intended to do, and put it under highly abusive conditions that it was never designed to handle. And to further get me out there into the weeds, I put my neighbor's 2-year-old in charge of my vehicle maintenance. And at the end of all of that, after me taking this vehicle out a few times, what possible right would I have to complain if my vehicle ended up like this? I put it in a situation it was never necessarily meant to be in, and I've also put it under the care and control of an individual, in this case my neighbor's 2-year-old, who had neither the skill nor the qualifications or training to be able to even keep up with maintaining a vehicle in that situation. And at the end of the day, when my vehicle looks like this, I really have no one necessarily to blame but myself for the situation that I'm in. And the comparison here is that after being in this industry 23 years, I see a lot of broken down Pintos on your floors. And there are many reasons why that can happen. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the fact that we put assets in place that aren't performing for various reasons. Either they can't perform because of the structure of that asset, or it's asked to do more than it's capable of doing. And then we put people in charge of maintaining it that we haven't given specifications to for how we want it or need it cleaned to maintain our goals. So the quote here that I love, and this is our next speaker, Rachel Lubay, came up with this, and you know, I'm a big fan of powerful quotes, and I love this one. Replace your carpet when you want to, not because you have to. And most of us typically get into the situation where we replace carpet when we have to, when it looks so bad that it needs to be replaced. And there is an option. You don't have to do it that way. You can structure things so you have a choice. You can decide if you want to replace it or not. Now that starts with 3 strategic choices, and the first of which is fiber. Now, when I say we're going to go into the weeds here, this is the soil. I call this is way into the weeds. Making the right decision with fiber is the first critical step in choosing a carpet strategy. And you know, this is something that, you know, if you spend some time, and Rachel's going to explain this to us, looking at the different types of fiber and making good strategic choices there, you then buy yourself a lot of other time and flexibility on the later end of the life cycle. So that's the first thing. The second thing we're going to be talking about is the carpet selection, actually choosing the carpet product. And we're going to hear from Steve Spencer with State Farm on that topic. And then, of course, there's maintenance. And that's how do you, once you make these great choices, how do you preserve those good choices for the most return on investment. So with that, I'd like to introduce Rachel Lubay, who's a commercial channel manager with Antron, and Rachel's going to talk specifically about fiber. So Rachel, would you talk to us?
Absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Okay,
cool. Hi, everybody. My name is Rachel Lubay, and I do work for Invista, which is the makers of Antron carpet fiber. I'm living in Phoenix, Arizona. I cover the whole country and Canada. I've been with Antron for actually 7 years. Today is my anniversary. Yay. Since I started with Invista, I really got to know how the fiber works in this whole carpet thing. And I found myself drawn to the maintenance side of things. I don't know how. I don't know why. I like dirty carpets, but I like to talk about it all the time. So I became IICRC certified about 5 years ago, which means that I am certified to clean commercial carpet. I don't necessarily want to clean commercial carpet, but I know just enough to be dangerous. With that, I began to develop and present educational programs on the importance of proper carpet fiber specifications to flooring contractors, maintenance service providers, and end users throughout all of North America. I really believe that it's important that I stress this to any audience, that I believe it's not just any one carpet construction component alone that can determine the ultimate performance capability of a carpet. If you combine the best of everything the carpet industry has to offer from all different manufacturers and a regularly planned and properly executed maintenance program, that's the key to keeping your carpet in the best shape possible for its longest useful life. So there are applications for all types of carpet construction and fiber systems. The important thing to think about is your expectation of the life cycle. What are the issues in your facility? What's your maintenance program going to look like? And when it comes to budget, do you want to pay upfront for a longer lasting carpet that's easier to maintain, or pay more in the long run for a higher maintenance and replacement cost? By thinking about all of these things and finding the right carpet and maintenance program to fit your needs, you can absolutely replace your carpet when you want to, not because you have to. Wayne, you want to go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so let's get into it. Fiber. Nylon is the most prevalent polymer type used in the North American commercial carpet market today. Nylon can be formed during manufacturing into different shapes with different attributes. So there's two different types of nylon. That's type 6/6 nylon and type 6 nylon, which have different building blocks that drive the difference in polymer structures and physical properties. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so going back to what I said just a minute ago, you need to remember that there are applications for both types of fiber. I'm definitely not here to tell you that one is always the best choice and always better than the other. Not every facility necessarily needs the long-term performance of a type 6/6 nylon. I know that's usually shocking for people to hear, a nylon manufacturer say, but honestly, if you're dealing with a space with low traffic that will be replaced in less than 5 years, and you have a decent maintenance program and a tight budget, a type 6 nylon can most likely satisfy your needs. But on the other hand, if you have a facility with high traffic, soiling issues, and you plan on keeping the carpet on the floor for 5+ years, and you want to look great the entire time, then a type 6/6 nylon is probably your best bet. So we'll get into the details now. So on the left, this is just a rendering of a type 6/6 molecular structure. This is all the science I ever want to know in my entire life. So you've got stronger, shorter hydrogen bonds and optimal polymer chain alignment, and that strengthens the structure of a type 6/6 nylon. On the right, we have the type 6 nylon. With this one, it's kind of overall just weaker, longer hydrogen bonds and less favorable polymer chain alignment, and that gives the type 6 nylon a little more vulnerability to foot traffic and staining. Next slide. Oh, I see it coming up now. Okay. So for commercial applications where there are a few spills, type 6/6 nylon polymer provides a base level of stain cleanability, which is superior to a type 6 nylon and a type 6 solution dyed nylon. The more open structure of the type 6 nylon makes carpet dyeing easier, but a dye can be looked at as a desired stain. Type 6/6 nylon with the tighter, more dense polymer structure has lower permeability, which means that stains diffuse more slowly into a type 6/6 nylon. So there's usually more time to clean up a spill before it becomes a stain. There's several ways that you can provide some additional stain resistance to fibers and to carpet. One way is to apply a stain resistance chemical to the carpet after manufacturing the carpet. So the stain resistance chemicals are like colorless dyes that basically prevent most common stains from being attracted to the fiber. Unfortunately, most stain-resistant chemistries in the commercial market are not terribly durable, and some can actually be removed with just one hot water extraction cleaning. As you can see, sample C is a solution-dyed type 6 nylon carpet with stain resistance chemistry applied. The initial stain resistance at the point of sale is fairly good. However, after one hot water extraction, that resistance chemistry, the stain resistance chemistry, can wash off, and you can see what the actual stain resistance capability of that solution dyed type 6 nylon fiber is in sample D. It really isn't a very pretty picture. Another way to impart stain resistance is to engineer a fiber polymer that will not accept certain staining agents. So nylon 6/6 has a base level of stain resistance already, just due to that molecular structure that we talked about before. But this level of stain resistance can be increased by using cationic polymer. Now, I know this is getting all kinds of scientific, and I don't, it's very in-depth and involved, so please feel free to contact me afterwards, and we can always go over this in person or on the phone. It's a lot of information. I totally get that. But a cationic polymer can be dyed with cationic dyes that resist dyeing or staining, if you will, by acid dyes. Now, acid dyes are in most common food and beverages. That's what most of our stains are in facilities. So that way, a stain is easier to clean. Type 6 nylon can be made with cationic polymer, but there's a lot of processing limitations, and very, very few type 6 nylon brands are made with this type of polymer. So sample A is showing the initial stain resistance of a branded cationic type 6 solution dyed nylon. And sample B is that same carpet after a hot water extraction cleaning, then stained, then rinsed with water after 24 hours. So you can see that's a much better picture than our sample D, where that stain resistance was washed off with a hot water extraction. Solution dyed fibers do bring some added benefits of their own to the picture, such as excellent light fastness and resistance to harsh chemical cleaning. But remember that not all solution dyed nylon is made with stain-resistant polymer. In fact, few are because of cost and technical challenges. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, and we can talk about the shape of fiber. So when nylon fiber for carpet was first invented, a round shape was thought to be the best option because it mimics the round shape of wool carpet fiber, which is, what carpet was made of back before nylon came about. But light can go straight through that round fiber with no scattering, like a lens, if there's no delustrant present. So basically what that means is that dirt visibility can be magnified. So this wasn't a great option for nylon carpet fiber. The last thing you want to do is magnify the dirt and make your carpet look dirtier than it really is. So next, the trilobal and the hollow filament fibers were created. Light is scattered by trilobal fibers in an intricate pattern like a prism, so the soil is less visible. However, dirt can get trapped between those lobes and crevices, making cleaning more difficult. Hollow filament fibers, such as antron fiber, have voids that increase that light scattering power and diffuse and refract light, making soil less visible. A round and smooth outer surface eliminates those crevices that the trilobal has, where soil can be trapped. So not only is dirt less visible, dirt accumulation is minimized, and that makes cleaning even easier. And these shapes are all formed at the manufacturing process. You can see that picture on the left side, that's called a spinneret. It's basically like this huge shower head, and that's where the shape is determined. And the shape runs through, I think our schools are like 30 miles long. So those shapes and the holes run that entire length, and it's all determined there at that spinneret. All right, we can go to the next slide, if you will. Thank you. Okay, so fiber definitely matters when you see it performing on the floor. This is a performance test that we did in a live, real-life situation. So here we've got the carpet made with the hollow filament antron on the top, compared to the competitive type 6 nylon with a trilobal shape, which, by the way, that one isn't necessarily ours, but we also make just a trilobal type 6 nylon, and we just call it an Invista fiber. So this is also, would be like comparing it to ourselves, but just a step down from the whole hollow filament up at the top. So this has a generic soil resistance treatment on it, and then the bottom one is a type 6 solution dyed nylon with that trilobal shape, and again a generic soil resistance treatment. So these were installed in a very popular entertainment facility in Florida. I really can't say where it is, but you can probably figure it out. And maintained every day by vacuuming and then periodic deep cleanings with hot water extraction. So the very first column is brand new, 0-foot traffic. Then we get the 200 foot traffic in the next column. And you can see how the fiber shape, and we use what's called Duratex soil resistance treatment on our carpet fibers. It keeps the carpet looking newer. Then the next column, you'll see that it's deep cleaned using a hot water extraction. And obviously the one on the top cleans up really well. The others aren't too bad. But then you put another 200,000 foot traffic on top of that, so a total of 400,000 foot traffic. And then the last column is after all of that foot traffic and then a second hot water extraction. So let's look at the difference between the top fiber and the bottom when it's in that real world and compare that to brand new. And you can definitely see that there's a difference in the fiber. If we go to the next slide, we'll get a really close-up view of what that looks like under a high-powered microscope. This always grosses me out just a little bit, especially when I'm at the airport and I see kids rolling around on the carpet, and I know what that dirt looks like under a microscope. It's really nasty. Basically, dirt's going to collect wherever it can unless it just can't. So fiber makes a difference not only when you can see it, but also when you can't see it, down deep, stuck in those fibers and those crevices of the tri-level. So here we've got that close-up magnification, and after the carpets with these fibers, then on the floor in a commercial facility for the 200,000 foot traffic. So think like 2 months in a busy school corridor at an elementary school or a high school. That's roughly what 200,000 foot traffic would be. You can see how quickly the dirt collects wherever it can, and it really tries to stay there. The different fiber shapes and the different oil-resistant treatments work for each carpet. In fact, there's two different, if you look at that second, the competitive type 6/6 nylon carpet, there's actually two different tri-level shapes there combined in the same carpet. And they will collect and release dirt differently. So the fiber shape definitely makes a difference. That's all I've got for today. Kind of to sum it all up, the fiber definitely can affect the way your carpet wears and how easily it releases stains and soil. So there's definitely a difference. Like I said, contact me if you have any questions or concerns about how to specify the right carpet in your facility, based on your individual needs. I'm more than happy to help out.
Thanks, Rachel. So the way I look at it, because I'm Mr. Analogy here, I like to look at fiber as the foundation. If you're trying to build a really strong house, your strong carpet house, the very first thing that has to be considered is fiber. And what I've seen is a lot of us make the first leap into just choosing the carpet without a lot of consideration for the type of fiber that goes there. And just as Rachel said, just to reiterate, Type 6/6 might not be, the ideal solution for you based on budget, your life cycle expectancy goals, and so forth. You might have a short-term lease. You might have really super low budget. You might know you're going to redesign the space in 4 years. Then, obviously you don't want to invest in a fiber that's made to last for the long term. But at the very least, this is something that needs to be considered as part of this decision-making process. So the next section here we're going to talk about is carpet selection. So once that fiber discussion has occurred with you and your team and so forth, and the next step is, well, in what formats are we going to put that fiber? So Steve is one of these people that coming from the O&M side here for 23 years in this industry, and talking with Steve, he's a kindred spirit because he is just a total subject matter expert on everything to do with carpeting, and he's done a lot of self-education on this that's very impressive. So I thought it was important to bring the facility managers and facility specialists' perspective on this. So Steve, would you talk to us about carpet selection?
Sure will. Thanks, Wayne. Just a little background on me. I came to State Farm 20 years ago, and I work in the design department. I actually work with our interior designers, architects, engineers, and construction people. And I am their subject matter expert on all flooring. I specify the flooring. I determine the cleaning and maintenance of those floorings, the installation. I also get into the maintenance of other finishes as well, because that's one of my areas of responsibility. So State Farm itself, if you want to go to the next slide, please, Wayne. We purchase about 350,000 square yards of carpet a year. We have approximately, between 30 and 35 million square feet of facilities and buildings within State Farm in the United States and Canada. And So we've purchased 350 on average 1,000 square yards over the last 20 years. That's about 7 million square feet of carpeting. So it's very important to us that we get the life expectancy out of that carpeting. It's a major investment. Next slide, please. So when I first came to State Farm 20 years ago, the appearance life of the carpet was 6 years. Now I have to define appearance life for you. Nylon carpet has 2 lives. One is its actual life, how long will it stay and not break down, and that's forever. It's got a longer half-life than nuclear waste. You bury it in a landfill today and we come back 200 years from now and it'll still be carpet. But the appearance life is what we work with, and that's how it looks. And if it gets ugly, then we have to replace it. It's still good, the nylon's still working, but appearance life is what causes us to take it out of the building. So when I first started, we were getting 6 years appearance life, and that was only because of the fact that it takes 6 years to fully depreciate the carpeting, and accounting would not let us replace it until we had our full depreciation. So there were a lot of problems there. So next slide, please. So then I met with our management and I said, how long do you want the carpet to look good? So back to what Rachel said, how can we keep it so we can change it when we want to rather than when we have to? So they said 10 years. So by giving me that goal, I had to look at the situation, and so what I did, we had to put a quality maintenance program in because there was none. And when I say quality maintenance, that's vacuuming, which is extremely important to the carpet, but also the cleaning and what processes we were going to use to clean the carpet. So what we did is put that maintenance program in there, and we were able to get 10 years of appearance life. And next slide, please. Next, Wayne, please. Okay, 15 years appearance life. What happened was we found that because we had better appearance life, we wanted to keep it longer because our designers were trying to use the design program for the building so it would have a little bit more longevity. And so in 2000, we started shooting for 15 years appearance life. So what changes we made is we looked at our maintenance program again, did a few tweaks with it, but then we also started looking at other ways and trying to figure out how can we make our carpet look better longer. So 2 things that we incorporated then were walk-off tiles, and walk-off at our entryways at any rate, and cushion backing for even longer life. So next slide, Wayne. That really worked well. We're getting 15 years life. Well, now we're building 3 major facilities, one in Dallas, which I just came from this week, one in Tempe, Arizona, and one in Atlanta, Georgia, that will, we are actually leasing those facilities, and to get the rate we wanted, we had to get a 20-year lease. So now I've got the challenge of extending our appearance life to 20 years so that we don't have to replace the carpet on our own dime versus having to get tenant improvement dollars at the end of that 20-year lease. So right now I'm in the process of adjusting our cleaning frequencies and the construction specifications to make sure that we're getting the types of products and the processes to give us that 20 years life. Next slide, please. So part of our selection process is in-house private testing and field results. This slide shows you 3 pictures of sections of our interior design corner of the facility. And you notice there's all sorts of different carpets there. Well, I've been testing carpet for about the last 10 years, and these are my mock-up areas. And what you see here is I've got products in the center. There's 2 different kinds of plank carpet installations. One is 18-inch and one is about 9-inch. So we wanted to see how that plank holds up under traffic, cart traffic, and share traffic. I've got 2 new cushion back products on the right side that we're trying and making sure that the cushion back will give us what we need from bounce back and also ability to get it off pull it off the floor because we do access the subfloor for wiring and wire management. And then I've got a couple others I'm testing fibers. So what I do is I put them in real world situations. And if you go to the next slide, please. And then in one case, I'm going to talk to you about a test that I did, that I was testing fibers. I was testing a trilobal 6.6 versus the Antron 4-hole hollow fill. And we are an Antron house, but I also get people who come up and say, well, our product will perform just as well, and here's our test. Well, I don't trust their tests. I want my own test. So what I did was I wanted to test this new 6.6 fiber. So one of the things I did is I put this mock-up down in the first floor of our building and left it there for a year. And then after a year, I took one of the tiles up and I took some attic stock of that product and another product that had an Antron fiber, and I tested them. And I took them to my own lab out in Atlanta, one that I utilize, and I said I want basically the hexapod drum test. And what you've got here in front of you is the hexapod drum test machine. And what they do is that little thing in the center is a weighted hexagon, and what it does is it bounces around as the drum turns, and there's a piece of carpet. The carpet is put in there, and it goes around and around, and you can do it by cycles. And so what we did, the normal Carpet Rug Institute ratings or testing that they do, ASTM, is 6,000 revolutions for residential, 12,000 revolutions for commercial. But I asked the lab to do a 24,000 revolution test on the carpets I sent to them, because that actually will imitate State Farm's traffic. We get more traffic than a school. We have a data center that has 14,000 employees in it. It's 3 million square feet, and it operates about 12 hours a day. So the traffic in 12 months a year. So basically we get a lot of traffic in there. So I did the 24,000. And that was the State Farm level. Next slide. So here's 3 of the products that we tested. I tested a 4th too, but I couldn't get them all on the table. Basically what you're looking at is from your left is the control tile. That's the one that is a brand new tile, and what we're going to do is go to the right, and the first sample is a 6,000 revolution. And yeah, here we go, the first sample. We got the control, and then right next to it is the 6,000, next to that is the 12,000, and next to that is the 24,000. And so we did it for this product. Go to the next slide. And then this product, and they were basically the same. One was the hollow fill, and one was the trilobal. And what we found was that I am tested for color change ratings and appearance ratings. And after the 24,000 area, the product that was trilobal had an appearance level of 2.5 and 3.5 in the color change, as opposed to the other product, which had a rating of 3.0 in appearance level and a little over 3 point in the color change. So that told me that they worked better. One of the things I have to point out here, we didn't know what was going on. We were using a multi-level loop here, and what we found is as we had more of the cycles, we found that the higher loops tended to fluff out and flatten out. So you could see them more distinctly on the thing here. So we called that popcorning. And that was not something that we really wanted to see in our buildings. Next slide, please. So we tested this product and the next product, and so we knew then that we wanted to stay with the Antron, but just for grins and giggles, I put cushion back on these 2 products, and they're both in the Antron family. And what happened was when I got my results back on these 2 tests, both of these products after the 24,000, and they were also level loop. After 24,000 revolutions, I had a level 4 rating for appearance level and a 4.5 for the color change, which that's what I want. That's going to give me the best thing over the length of time. So as a result of this test, next slide, we decided that we were going to stay with the 4-hole hollow fill, and we were also going to add cushion back, because once again we're looking at getting that 20-year performance out of our appearance level out of it. So one of the things that I have found over my years is the #1 enemy of carpet is dry soils. Most people put out mats and walk off when it's wet outside because they don't want people to slip, or they figure that the salt and all the other stuff is going to damage their carpet. Well, the dry soil, especially in areas like Arizona, Florida, where it's sandy and you've got grains of sand, that's actually the thing that does the most damage to your carpet and affects your appearance life. Because what happens is those little pieces of sand, which a single grain of sand has 96 abrasion points on it. So what it does is it scratches at your fiber. So you need a fiber that's going to be as resistant as possible, which we use the Antron because it is. But still, again, you want to remove that stuff because any abrasion on those fibers can actually scratch the fiber and make it so that it doesn't reflect light the way it has to give you the right look. So we wanted to make sure that we kept all of that abrasive soil out. It not only hurts our carpet, but it also hurts hard surface floors. It really wears away at what those products are supposed to do. Next slide. So we went to the manufacturers of carpet a number of years ago, and we said, you make carpet, and we use mats, but mats can be problematic because they only go out at certain times, and I just have a hard time putting a mat over the top of my carpet, because then you have the possibility of drawing moisture up from the slab and putting on top of my carpet from underneath the mat. And it also, mats on top of carpet is kind of redundant. I'd rather have the carpet there. So we asked the manufacturers if they would make a walk-off tile, because we were using tile. We switched to tile about 20 years ago, opposed to broadloom, because it gives us more flexibility. And so they started developing the walk-off tile. And we found that will locate your soil at the entrance to your buildings. So it's basically a sacrificial lamb. That area can take the abuse, but it doesn't come in and touch your really nice carpeting and other floor finishes you have inside. So we started installing 30, 40 feet of walk-off at all of our entrances to our building. And we found that it got us 3 additional years of appearance life by putting that in there. And then there was a study that was done by Windsor Industries that they were doing a green cleaning study, but right in the beginning of it, they did a study on how much soil you can keep out of the building, because they were concerned that if you keep the soil out of the building, it's going to help keep your building green. And they found that if you get 36 feet of walk-off in your building at your entrances, you will remove 99% of your soils. And that's a white paper that's published by Windsor Industries. And so the other thing is walk-off tiles are replaceable. We can do all sorts of designs with them so that my interior designers are happy, but you can replace that small amount of walk-off at your entrance to your buildings more frequently than you replace the rest of the carpet in your building, and therefore keep your costs down. Next slide, please. So that's our approach. We use walk-off to keep it out. We specify carpeting that is level loop in those heavy areas that we know we're going to be using it. We also use cushion back. We use Antron fiber. And then we use a strong maintenance program for not only vacuuming on a daily basis in the high traffic areas, but also, and then our cleaning is done by traffic. We don't clean the carpets once a quarter. We clean the high traffic stuff once a month. We clean the medium traffic stuff once a quarter. And we clean the low traffic stuff semi-annually. So we actually specify the cleaning and the intensive cleaning to where we know the traffic is going to be so that we can keep that area looking good. And that's it, I believe. Wayne?
Great.
Wayne,
thanks,
before
Steve.
you start,
Yes.
I do have one question that relates to Steve's presentation. When you were showing the carpet tile samples with the different wear, someone was asking, were the carpets HWE before judging the appearance?
Yes. We had the control, and then each one was done at each stage. They did the evaluations.
Okay.
Great, thanks.
Sure. Yeah, and those folks in Georgia, they've got carpet testing literally down to a science. They've got all kinds of neat things there that they've come up with some pretty good analogs for how to replicate foot traffic there and produce those results. There's some really good labs down there to have some product tested. So thank you, Steve. The way I look at it now is that we've got our foundation, which is fiber, and then the next thing we're going to put on that is the carpet and walk-off. Now, I know some of you are saying I couldn't get walk-off in because the designers don't like walk-off. They like having white limestone in a herringbone pattern right off the street because that's the look they want. And I understand that's a battle that we all fight with the design community. But if you start collecting some of this data like Steve has, and you can go in and say, if we change this one thing, it's going to save X million dollars, you have a lot more credibility and flexibility to get some of those design changes done. And obviously the data is out there in some of these white papers and through Steve's experience to help you make that case. So I don't separate walk-off from the carpet choice. I think they're integrated, and let's look a little bit why. So quickly, you know, I've been in operations and maintenance in this field for about 23 years. I'm a lead AP, a business energy professional, and a green business operator. I'm also the vice president of the IFMA East Bay chapter and the foundation liaison for the Sacramento Valley chapter. And my company does all kinds of things. DFS Green, we do tile and grout restoration, carpet, upholstery, wall fabric, pretty much all the high-end finishes. So I'm coming at this from a perspective where I've been in a lot of your types of facilities, corporate environments, Class A office space, and I've seen the lovely finishes that get placed in those facilities, and then we're charged with maintaining those. So that's the perspective I'm bringing here today. Unfortunately, this is typically when we get called in to help. We get called in when things go so far south and numerous companies have tried to fix things or get it on track that we have to come in and restore. And honestly, by this time, you've already taken off 5 years of life off your carpet anyway, if not more, by not having an aggressive maintenance program that matches your goals. And that's the key there. And you know, whether it's broadloom or tile or whatever, this is what we see, my company, DFS Green, this is what we see on a daily basis out there in the field when we get called in to look at carpet. And it doesn't have to be this way, but there has to be a strategic approach on the front end. And I love this quote by Kurt Vonnegut. If any of you are fans of his writing, it's funny he came up with this. Another flaw in the human character is that everybody wants to build and nobody wants to do maintenance. And I have a theory why that is. And that is if you look at everything along the life cycle of carpet, pretty much everything is transactional except the maintenance. You know, once the fiber's been selected or the carpet, the install, everybody gets their sign-off papers done. But maintenance is one of those areas where it's a relationship where you're constantly in the facility handling problems, closing loops, solving issues, and it requires adaptation. When you change the use of your space from one thing to another, you do a restack, the maintenance should change. And it's one of those areas that requires more touch and more consistent relationship than a transaction. And that's why choosing that vendor that vendor partner is pretty important. A quick little story here about the difference between build and maintenance. And I know there's a huge Grand Canyon gulf typically between your design folks and your O&M folks. I can almost hear the chuckles, from here. Being involved in the USGBC as I have for years, I actually co-taught a class with Kit Tuvison to the Northern California chapter, which is pretty much the belly of the green beast, right? And we were teaching on maintaining your ED certification. How do you sustain the green practices that you got during your certification? And the class was about 80 people, and not a single person in that class even knew that you had to recertify your building. They were predominantly architects and designers. They don't think that way. So when they say, no, we don't want walk-off tiles, we want white herringbone limestone, in the entry of the building, that's because they have no idea that you're going to have to spend $50,000 a year to maintain it, and they don't care. So this choices with carpet, if you have some of this data and can at least get a seat at that table or at least make some input about some of those things and tie it to real dollars, you'll have an opportunity to help with some of that design selection. So what is the approach? Well, you know, a lot of carpet maintenance starts with, many companies will say, we have a process, or we use this chemical, or we have this maintenance machine. And they start with that, as opposed to saying, you know, what did you put down, or what kind of carpet are you selecting, and what do you get measured on, Mr. or Mrs. Facility Person? Or what are your KPIs, and how can we align our maintenance with that? And the other thing is choosing vendors that have experience in your type of environment. And you know, if someone's been used to cleaning blockbuster video stores and they want to get into the commercial market, that's a recipe for problems. It has to be somebody that really understands your market. So if I were putting together a maintenance program, here's the thought process I go through. What are my clients' goals? How long do they need this asset to last? Number one. Number two, what are their KPIs? Do they need response? Are they measured on response time? Are they measured on appearance? Is it a call center? I mean, what are the different things that are going on here? Then what's your budget? Because obviously, you know, if you have a low budget, you have high goals, something needs to give. And then what are your product maintenance specs? And I'm shocked at how infrequently FMs are asked, what is the carpet that's on the floor that you've chosen? And making sure that, you know, whether it's an interface, a shawl, a mohawk, it's whoever, et cetera, is it being cleaned according to those maintenance specs? Or is somebody just coming in and saying, we use X machine and X product? So it's important to understand that product maintenance spec. And then when you mix all of that up, you derive the maintenance program. And for those of you that, you know, have maybe heard some of the talks from Dr. Dean or John Martins recently about hiring subject matter experts as your vendor partners, this is what SMEs do. They reverse engineer the program. They don't come in and dictate the program to you. That program is derived from what your needs are. And just like Steve said, is they don't do just a wall-to-wall quarterly cleaning. They clean strategically based on the goals of that individual facility. So in terms of equipment and products and so forth, a healthy vendor partner is going to have all the equipment and all of the products to handle any type of carpet fiber and carpet selection. And these are just a couple of the pieces of equipment and that are commonly used and recommended by the mills. And you'll notice they carry certifications for the Carpet and Rug Institute. And if any of you are pursuing LEED or in LEED, you'll probably have heard that term. They certify equipment at different levels, and essentially it's certified based on different things ranging from how it performs for actually cleaning the carpet, its decibel level for the user, and a variety of other things give them that certification. And these particular pieces that you see here are the most commonly used interim maintenance methods recommended by the carpet manufacturers. And these actually, they do the opposite of foot traffic. They lift the pile and they remove the soil and the dirt. And this is, like I said, a very common method. A lot of these, you know, extractors and so forth, beyond that, they still have to carry CRI certifications. And when you look at your, if you delve into LEED and you need to make sure that the equipment that you're using per credit 3.4 is in alignment, these are the types of pieces of equipment that you will need to use to maintain that certification or to get that certification. And included in that, obviously, is the vacuuming. Even the vacuums are certified by CRI. And when you all are writing your RFPs for your janitorial, you need to put that in there, that you want them to use CRI, dual motor, top loading, you know, filter to, you know, X microns, whatever, in the vacuums. And you'll be sure to get the correct vacuuming, or I should say, you'll be sure to get the correct piece of equipment on your floor. Whether or not it's used correctly is a different story. But this is the type of equipment that, you know, the current cutting-edge carpet maintenance vendor partner should be using in your facilities. And then in terms of products and some other things, there's various certifications you want to look for. The Carpet and Rug Institute is one. Green Seal is something, you know, is ubiquitous. Everybody's heard of Green Seal, but what does that mean? Green Seal just simply just stamps it's a GS37, GS42, whatever, certified that that product is green by that definition of green. And that primarily means that it's safe for the people and the environment are the two primary issues, and then its efficacy. Does the product actually work? So when you bring products into your facility, Carrying certifications like this are pretty important. The ISCRC is another one that's more certifying people and companies. One thing to be aware of with ISCRC, companies can be certified, but none of the actual people performing the work have to be certified. So be cautious of that you want to make sure at least you're not just hiring an ISCRC certified company, but that the individuals also maintain that certification. So let's sew this all up here. This is about carpet cost saving strategies. So let me bring all this to a head here. There's three primary models in my 23 years of doing this that I've seen for maintenance. And the first is the reactive maintenance model. I call this the Band-Aid approach. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone say, I just got my carpet put down, I don't need to clean it for 2 years. And you know, I've asked people, why do you say that? And number one reason why is because once I have it cleaned, it doesn't look as good. I've had people say that, right? And I understand why that happens. That's improper cleaning. But the second is that, well, I don't need to clean it until it looks dirty. Well, meanwhile, all those soils are embedding in the carpet and taking life off the back end. It's like saying, I just bought a new car, I don't need to change the oil for 2 years. You change the oil based on how much is driven by the miles and the type of miles even. So who's predominantly doing reactive maintenance? Well, it's predominantly the janitorial firms because we're contracted with the janitors and we tend to lock this asset underneath the typical janitorial company. Now, when I say typical, I'm not saying all. There are some great janitorial companies who have great training and great people doing this. But having been in this industry so long, it's not the rule, it's still the exception. And the most commonly used still today that I see being used by the janitorial companies is a bonnet cleaning. And bonnet cleaning is not recommended by any carpet manufacturer in existence today. Now, this picture I snapped personally. I was in a facility working on a limestone floor, and I saw the janitor go into an elevator to go up and clean several floors. And this was all that he brought with him. One bonnet, extraction cleaner, not even bonnet cleaner, and a bonnet machine. And he cleaned several floors with just this equipment because he's you know, this is what they've given him to use, and this is what he's using, a dirty bonnet. And moreover, when we go in to do testing on carpets, sometimes before we even start, we'll measure the amount of foam that's in a carpet. And this is an example of using bonnet and leaving too much leaving too much foam behind in the carpet, and that attracts soil. So having the right vendor who understands maintenance may not be your janitorial firm. If all the things I've already talked about in terms of equipment and so forth is not in their arsenal, they may not be the modern equivalent of what you need to get the most life out of your carpet. And two of the biggest culprits here are backpack vacs and the old sanitaires. If they're using backpack vacs, they're not agitating the carpet and lifting that abrasive soil out. Now, if you had great track-off matting and you were aggressively vacuuming that track-off matting on the front end, then your second floor theoretically shouldn't have any abrasive soils in it. There shouldn't be anything deposited. So maybe you can get away with some more high-productivity backpack vacuuming up there instead of always doing uprights. And then the other thing, too, is, you know, this sanitaire kicks off as much dust mite feces out of the bag as it collects because it's not filtered at the right micron, and it also doesn't have the ability to really get the soil out like a dual motor does. This is the vacuum of yesteryear. This is your grandfather's vacuum. That's why speccing the vacuum in your janitorial RFPs are so key. So that was your reactive model. Well, the second one is the preventive model, and I call this the shotgun approach. This is the just clean it more frequently approach. This is, hey, just clean everything quarterly. Just clean it more. Well, that's really not a strategic use of that money. Do you really need to clean the whole floor wall to wall once a quarter? Is that the best use of your money? But I consistently walk into places where they're asking me to give them a proposal on that type of cleaning, because that's what the janitorial environment has fostered, where they give them a quote to clean the carpets. But that's not a strategic approach. That's just wasting money. I look at it like your car. If you change the oil every 3,000 miles, whether it needs it or not. I have a Ford hybrid that tells me when to change the oil, and I can go 7,500 miles with that car before it asks me to change the oil. So am I changing the oil when it needs it or quarterly? And what does that cost? Well, it turns out it costs a lot compared to a predictive maintenance model. And I call this the bullseye approach. This is where your facility is divided into zones. And this is a living, breathing, active thing, because as you change the use of your facility, these zones should change. How often do we need to clean your main core and your main racetrack? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? I don't know. It depends on the use of your space. Do you allow eating at your desks and cubes? Do you have open office? Do you have an open office workspace? Hoteling? All of that stuff has to be calculated and then derived and turned into zones. And then this strategically allows you to clean the most trafficked and soiled areas with the most frequency, thus giving you the longest life on that carpet. Why spend money cleaning clean carpet? It's a waste of money. So where this comes down to, and this is the example here, comparing these three. If you avoid replacement in that 8th year, which is a pretty common year for replacement because people's depreciation schedules and so forth, like Steve was saying, and you can avoid it again in year 16, what is the savings that you're talking about? Now, this is a 500,000 square foot facility. That's a pretty significant savings over 16 years, 4.1 million. Now, how that came about is we added in the cost of the carpet, the cost of carpet replacement, the cost of maintenance, and compared all three of those with current benchmarks in the industry for cost. And I can send those to anyone who requests those. But my numbers are, Steve sent me his own ROI that he did, and my numbers are even more conservative than his. And Steve's shown some pretty significant savings in his own at State Farm. So it turns out predictive maintenance, okay, this steady line here, where you avoid replacement twice, you still invest in maintenance, is actually so much less expensive than doing preventive maintenance, than just saying to clean it more. It turns out clean it more is the worst one. That's the one where you spend a lot of money on maintenance and you still end up replacing the carpet. So if you start with what is it going to take to prevent me from replacing the carpet? Good fiber, good carpet, and a maintenance program that's aligned with my goals, I can actually stave off that replacement twice and save a ton of money. Now, you might not have a 500,000 square foot facility, but take a look on this chart here and find your facility and see what that savings might be. And you could also say, well, Wayne, I'm not going to keep carpet for 16 years. We're going to change that out because of design and so forth. Fine. Let your maintenance vendor know, and your fiber vendor and your carpet vendor know how long you do plan to use it for, and then they can help you choose the right fiber, carpet, and maintenance spec so you're not overspending. If you know in 8 years you're going to replace that carpet anyway, regardless of how it looks, then tailor all of those choices to that goal. Now, quickly, just in closing, I'm going to talk about environmental impact because this is part of that. This is my quote here. I get very frustrated when I hear people talk about green, because the first question you need to ask is, what do you mean by green? And when we start talking about sustainability in carpet and recycling and cradle to cradle and all this stuff, the fact is there's so much embodied energy that has already gotten your carpet to you and on your floor that it's astronomical. The amount of water, GHGs, et cetera, just to even get the carpet manufactured and transported and installed in your facility. And this new trend toward replacing carpet every 5 years and recycling it and creating new carpet, it doesn't take into account the embodied energy or that's kind of hidden from the equation. If you're talking about sustainability in carpet, that approach at its core must focus on maximizing the useful life of the carpet. It's almost like it reminds me back in 2006 and 2005 when people were replacing VCT floors with bamboo because that's green. That VCT floor would have lasted 50 years. And the bamboo is going to be replaced several times over that same period. Is that really green? So maximizing useful life is environmental responsibility, and that's the maximum environmental impact you can make is by keeping what you've got instead of replacing it. And just real quick, finally, the touch points of that when it comes to sustainability. This whole thing is going to create a much healthier indoor environment when you're maintaining the carpets correctly, and the carpets will release the soil, and your facilities are more attractive. People are happier in that environment. As far as the planet, you're talking about reducing greenhouse gases, by not having to remanufacture carpet, and then the delayed environmental impact from either having it incinerated, landfilled, or remanufactured. And then finally, all of this is a win-win-win because of the profit function. It's going to delay your CapEx, and it's going to help you avoid the business disruption of replacing this carpet. So there is a financial component to this, and there is a sustainable component to all this that's wrapped up in these choices you make. So in closing, you made the choice with fiber, you've made the choice with carpet and walk-off, and finally to protect that investment, to put the roof on it, a good, tailored, customized maintenance program to your goal is essential. So with that, I'd like to open it up, Joshua, if there's any questions from anyone.
Okay, I currently, oh wait, one just came in. Okay, I'd love to have a copy of the financial impact slide. Yes, I will be sending out a copy of this presentation within the next 24 to 48 hours, so you will get a copy of this PowerPoint presentation. Okay. We'll give it just a moment to see if anybody else has any questions. Okay. And if anyone after the fact comes up or you think of any questions, Wayne is really great. He's a great source. And like you said at the beginning, he'd be happy to answer any questions. So if you do think of anything later, certainly reach out to him. On that, we are slightly over, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up because I don't see any questions coming through. Everyone, I would like to thank you for joining us. Wayne, Stephen, and Rachel, thank you very much. You all did a great job. And everyone have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.